Welcome back, dear observers of nuance and lovers of untold stories. You've stepped into the quiet room where louder truths echo, and yes, you have arrived at Turkish Spotlight Secrets, the channel that prefers whispers to shouts and context to clutter. Today's journey isn't a tabloid blip, it's a slow-burn mystery that has turned the calmest fans into late-night analysts and calm timelines into intricate webs of possibility. We are peering at a phenomenon that has taken Turkish showbiz by the shoulders and asked a daring question aloud. The theory feels too fragile to touch and too bold to ignore. Did Gökberk Yıldırım and Cemre Arda marry in secret? If you adore the place where grand romance intersects with strategy and silence, you are exactly where you need to be. Before we lay out the clues like precious artifacts on a velvet cloth, make sure you are subscribed to Turkish Spotlight Secrets. The join button is our inner circle, the comments are our open forum, and your likes keep the lantern glowing as we search the corridors of this story together. Ready? Exhale. Let's slip into the hush where the heart tells its tale, carefully, deliberately, away from the floodlights. For years, the interplay between Gökberk Yıldırım and Cemre Arda was the litmus test for on-screen chemistry. It wasn't simply convincing, it felt like the camera was catching something unintended. A tenderness that peeked out between takes and a familiarity that didn't feel rehearsed. Over time, the professional spark softened at the edges in the public imagination, sidelong looks during interviews, photo shoots that carried a calm ease, captions that read like puzzle pieces. The once scattered details now form a single audacious storyline. The claim moves with the force of weather. These two, who have shaped trends and fueled ratings, may have quietly exchanged vows. This isn't mere idle chatter you can brush off as fanfiction. It has a spine, a rhythm, a narrative that's being assembled by those who insist they see more clearly than the crowd. According to trusted voices at the periphery, the pair didn't just keep their circle small, they executed a blueprint for near-complete invisibility. Not the typical private celebration packed with industry faces and a polished magazine spread. We're talking about a ceremony so sealed and small that even people close to them allegedly learned of it after it was already sacred fact. The romance intensifies when the whispers turn to geography. The leading thought suggests the union unfolded far from the reach of their fame. Not within Turkey's borders, where their silhouettes are instantly recognized. Instead, the rumor points to a discreet European refuge behind heavy doors and thicker silence. The story gains weight when you examine the behavior surrounding it. Cemre has been noticeably absent from media appearances, she's turned down interviews, skipped events, and slid into a measured quiet. Meanwhile, Gökberk has receded online, offering fewer posts and none of his usual behind-the-scenes snapshots. In celebrity life, synchronized silence does not generally occur by accident, it often marks a deliberate reshuffling of priorities. Those close enough to sense the current say this was the point all along. The two made a pact to protect one day, a day that belonged to them and nobody else. That pact, they say, was kept by only a handful of confidants. It was their way of being regular people for a breath of time, two individuals promising, not performing. Of course, theories crave anchors, and this one found a glimmering talisman. An elegant ring, simple, refined, has been seen glittering on Cemre's left hand. In an era where every pixel tells a story, fans didn't scroll past. They zoomed, they compared, they studied reflections in glass and the bend of light. The verdict for many faithful watchers is emphatic: that's not a stylist's accessory, it's a wedding band. And yet, in the eye of the speculation, their response has been absolute quiet. No denial, no confirmation, not even a wink. In a business famous for speedy publicists and crafted statements, this silence feels less like absence and more like a choice. Every hour without a response invites another thread, another theory, another mosaic of hope. Let's pause with the Turkish Spotlight Secrets community and talk about the line we're tiptoeing. We feel close to them because we were invited, through art, to see them love on screen. But how much of their real life do we get to hold? If they did marry without fanfare, do you feel robbed of a celebration, or do you applaud them for stealing a private moment from the glare? Is the quiet a calculated technique, or is it a boundary we must honor? Tell us how you feel in the comments, not just about the rumor, but about what it means to love in public while trying to live in peace. The hobby of reconstructing the secret event has become an obsession. The most repeated timeline points to a sudden clarity between two overscheduled professionals. Time together wasn't blossoming, it was shrinking. That realization reportedly sparked delicate talks with their teams. Diaries were rearranged like furniture. Meetings were shifted. Commitments were nudged into new slots. A plan emerged, folded, careful, almost invisible. As for the location, forget the postcard clichés. Not the boulevards of Paris, the polished corridors of Milan, or the showy plazas of Barcelona. The theory favors something more intimate and earthy, a European town with the hush of old stone and narrow lanes where privacy still matters. Some say it was a coastal nook, salt in the air, citrus on the wind, a tiny restaurant with a few candlelit tables. Just 3 or 4 witnesses, no photographers, only phone cameras held by people who were there to feel it, not sell it. The fandom's detective work is genuinely impressive. They've connected digital crumbs that once looked separate. An unassuming chair with a distinctive backrest appears in a soft-lit landscape Cemre shared weeks ago. Around the same time, Gökberk posted a fleeting story with an out-of-focus background that, when magnified, shows a curve of wood and a pattern of shadow that looks suspiciously familiar. On their own, these were lovely, lonely fragments of two busy lives. Under the marriage hypothesis, they line up differently. Fans are aligning shadow lengths, mapping angles, and pondering whether those images might be two corners of the same room on the same stolen day. Then comes the million-lira question: why say nothing after such a massive decision? One view is simple: timing. They might have intended to share the news themselves, in their voice, during a pause in the noise. But rumor ran ahead, and silence became the only shield. Another view is more strategic. Letting the mystery breathe can electrify audiences before a new project drops. Perhaps this hush is a tacit agreement with their teams to let the story hum, gaining warmth while schedules remain packed. Whispers from sets and studios add a charged layer. Old moments are being reinterpreted. What used to be shrugged off as professional harmony now looks like a seedbed of affection. Actors recall how Cemre would glance over to check if Gökberk had eaten after relentless shooting days, how she could anticipate when he needed a sip of water or 5 minutes of quiet more reliably than any assistant. Crew members, in turn, remember nights turning cold and Gökberk wordlessly folding his jacket over her shoulders before rolling again. Tiny, kind acts, suddenly shedding a new glow in retrospect. If the ceremony truly unfolded in a hidden European haven, the story naturally asks what came after. One camp believes they returned to Istanbul quietly, blending back into ordinary life with almost mischievous ease. A neighbor, anonymity requested, claims 2 early risers, uncannily similar to the pair, were seen walking a dog along a pale dawn by the Bosphorus. No entourage, no stylist, no phone held high. Just sneakers, steam rising from takeaway coffee, and a silence they shared without effort. If that was them, it confirms a suspicion many have held: beneath luminous careers, there are 2 people who prefer simple rituals to coordinated spectacle. But rumor is restless. Not long ago, a grainy airport shot popped up online. In it, someone who looks strikingly like Cemre navigates an international terminal with a compact carry-on. The forums noticed initials stamped on the bag, CA. And the speculation machine roared to life. Hours later, or maybe the same day, the timeline blurs, another image appeared, a man remarkably like Gökberk leaving what seems to be the same building. Fans placed the images side by side and drew a neat line: a quiet return from a hidden honeymoon. Coincidence? Mistaken identity? Maybe. But the theory migrated across feeds with passionate essays, timestamps, and comparisons of floor tiles and overhead lighting. And still, no official word. The industry holds a careful breath, caught between anticipation and respect. Everyone remembers their on-screen magic, how it spilled beyond borders and made people believe in impossible tenderness. The thought that the spark may have matured into something sheltered and permanent, something deliberately theirs, sends a ripple through anyone who rooted for them since their first partnered scene. Let us return to the spark that set the speculation alight, the ring. The images. The shared architectural motifs. The airport glimpses. The retroactive tenderness on set. And the imaginary toast, quiet clinks of glasses in a small room by the sea. Is this a modern fairy tale being kept safe under glass, or a beautiful misunderstanding that says more about audience hope than reality? The waiting has become a spectacle in its own right, quiet, intense, enthralling. At Turkish Spotlight Secrets, we'll keep our watch, patient and curious. If the silence cracks, we'll be here to help make sense of the sound. If this deep dive held your attention, tap like so the story travels farther. Subscribe to Turkish Spotlight Secrets and ring the bell so you're here for the next chapter. And if you want to support our careful work as we follow the soft footprints of truth, the join button opens the door. Thank you for your time, your imagination, and your grace. Until we meet again, keep your eyes on the gentle corners, because that's where real stories tend to hide. There is one more thread worth tugging, delicate though it is. A stylist who once partnered with Cemre quietly favorited a comment that read, "Sometimes the biggest days leave the smallest traces." No confirmation, no denial, only that faint nod in a crowded feed. And a veteran assistant director, no stranger to these stars, liked to post about love being in action, not a press release. Are these hints, or just the random heartbeat of social media? They fueled a conversation without dictating the outcome. Insiders whisper about logistics that would have made such secrecy possible, a midweek flight booked under ordinary names, a boutique hotel that values discretion, a civil official brought in through trusted intermediaries, and a celebration soundtracked not by a DJ, but by the tide. A handwritten note in a foreign language at the host stand. A dessert sent without being ordered. A couple slipping out the back while the restaurant hummed on, none the wiser. The kind of perfect cloak that only works once. Some argue we're all participants in a grand rehearsal for a reveal that may never come. Others say it's simpler, this is how two people with too many eyes on them hold on to something sacred. Maybe both things are true at once. Because love in public demands paradoxes. Openness that hides, truth that refuses explanation, intimacy that resists translation. And maybe that's why the fandom won't let go. They aren't just rooting for a couple, they are rooting for a version of love that survives the noise. Think back to their earliest interviews. The shared jokes. The glances dipped with complicity. The way they'd finish each other's thoughts without trampling them. The seed of trust, peeking out beneath rehearsed answers. If this story ends with a formal announcement, it will likely be understated. No fireworks, just a simple acknowledgement, a photograph with unshowy light, and a caption that thanks everyone for understanding why it was kept quiet. And if no announcement comes at all, perhaps that too is an answer. Some stories prefer to be lived rather than narrated. Until then, we lean into patience. We accept that sometimes silence is not a void but a veil. We revisit the clues without losing ourselves to certainty. We remember that art first brought them to us, and that the roles they play together, and separately, will continue to be the gift we can actually claim. And when the moment arrives, whatever it is, we will meet it with the same curiosity and care we brought today. You've been in the company of Turkish Spotlight Secrets. We will be here, steady, listening for the next true sound that breaks through the quiet.